my main coat, so I usually go to zinc white, which is more transparent white, as I'm getting along in the painting. But right now, and then I'm going to do a little cadmium yellow light with a little cadmium yellow medium with just a little bit of permanent green mixed in. And then I'm going to go back to this white and mix more of that in, because I'm going to kind of block in some of the flesh tones right here. And I like to get all of my canvas covered. And this canvas has had another 24 hours to cure. So it seems like my canvas yesterday was just, I probably should have given it an extra 24 hours before I started painting on it. But nevertheless, the young lady who wants me to, that's the person in this portrait, kind of wanted me to get started, so I started. However, I don't even think she's in this account. She's in the account that I'm blocked on. And so I sent her a link yesterday, but I think she's so, you know, a lot of times certain young ladies, they do a lot of lives, they get real popular. So they get a lot of friend requests, and they might just delete more people than they actually pick up. So I hope she sees the request that I sent her. So I'm just putting in the block color right now. I am painting oil, and I like to paint this technique as opposed to just painting with a little teeny brush with little details as I go. I still like to paint blocking and then focus, tighten everything up later. First of all, you get more impasto, and also you can build your layers up and do a lot of glazing, which actually looks very, very good. Looks very good. So I'm using kind of the same brush here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a modeling tone here. A little bit of a modeling tone. And I really don't want to do too much heavy paint right now. But I do just want something in there to get rid of the white background. Kind of want to start getting rid of that a little bit. Okay, that's good. And I can clean up some of these edges later. I'm not trying to be so specific about that either. What I'm going to do is just go in with some raw umber and some burnt sienna. Just going to kind of build up some of the modeling just a little bit more. So I just wanted to get it covered with that tone first, just so I can have nice coverage on the paint. Okay, that's enough for now, because like I say, there's still more glazes that I want to put over everything, and I don't want to just start doing too much too quickly, But the paint goes over, artist paint goes over artist paint much better. And this is like an oil ground, and it's a little bit drier today than it was yesterday. So that's pretty good. So I'm a little bit fresher. Yesterday I was not quite as fresh as I could have been. So I'm a little bit fresher today. So I'm going to mix a little bit of alizarin in with a little bit of raw umber with a little bit of Daxodon purple. And I'm going to start attacking. I don't usually like to attack when I'm tired and kind of, dreary, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I don't really like to attack my canvas too much, because I'm a little bit more timid of an artist, but when I have my energy up, That's when I hit with all the barrels, man. Mixing a little bit of ultramarine blue in to get a darker tone out of this. And what I'm just doing is establishing some of the anatomy in the hand a little bit. And then this tone that I put in yesterday, I'm going to take some ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to go and lay that over top of that kind of brown tone that I already have in there. Just to get it a little bit darker in there. Okay, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to I do want to do some glazing, but I don't want to really I still want to keep like wet on dry as much as I can. So what I'm going to just do is just go and just blend this darker tone with that tone that I have from yesterday. Then I'm going to dry brush it in a little bit, kind of get a little, just build that nice tone up on the canvas. Because again, what I do is I build a patina. I don't paint left to right. I like to build out. Because if you look at even my Barack Obama painting over there on the wall, it's a thickness to the paint. The paint has a seduction to it. It has a quality that is not photographic, you know. And what I like to try to do is create something that, because anybody can take a photograph and put it on a canvas and sort of do what you do as an artist if you're doing a portrait. But not everybody can build up the glazing. So that's just going to take some work as an artist. And if you have that kind of skill as an artist, by all means, give that to the person who commissions your work. Because when that is on their wall and their guests come over to see it, it's something that ain't nobody else got. they don't have. I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue over this. It's going to create the illusion of black, but it's just going to have that zing. And this is that glazing where I'm putting one tone over top the next tone over top the next tone. Okay, and I'm already adding tones even though I haven't painted the whole painting, even though I still got major sections of the painting. And this is going to be good. I mean, this glazing is going to be fun. I think I do. Now I'm just starting on day 2. I'm kind of discovering the benefits of ground because I wasn't as impressed yesterday. But I think yesterday the oil ground just was not as dry as it should have been. You know, I rushed it maybe. It's been a while since I've been doing oil grounds. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing a little glazing on this brown color, which is really going to be like the color of her skin underneath this lace. I don't want too much of that brown. I do want this brown to start to lighten up a little bit. But I don't want to do too much. I just want to glaze, scumble it in. I just want to glaze, scumble it in. I don't want, like I said, I can build these little glazes up. Very, very thin little layers. They don't have to be thick. But all of them have some media in it, medium or some oil in it. So it's like that umber effect, you know, in a, you know, you get an amber crystal in a piece of jewelry, and it's made by a tree over time, you know, nature makes it. I'm sure they can make it synthetically, but it's a beautiful little crystal. It's literally a crystal. So when you're working with oil, unlike acrylic, you're really working with crystal. You know, flat little layers of crystal. And so I like to take advantage of that. I like to take advantage of the properties of oil to build up my, what I'm going to do is get a bigger brush now and just kind of scumble this in. Just scumble this over the tone that I put down. And this is basically called toning the canvas. This is me just toning this canvas up. Just getting this surface ready for my modeling layer. This is still part of my blocking. And then I'm gonna just dip a little bit of burnt sienna, mixed with some raw umber. Just go in here and just get that on this brush. And I like this as a long-haired sable filber. It's a rosemary brush. It's one of my favorite brushes. It's one of my favorite glazing brushes. Okay, now I made this tone a little bit darker than the tone that I had on there yesterday. But this is a glaze, so it's transparent. But I'm going to hit it with just a little bit of cadmium orange in there, just to give it a little smidge of glow. That's going to have the same effect as adding like a lighter white color, but it just looks a little less. It just puts that glow. A lot of times in melanated skin, it has a glow to it if it hits the light right, you know. And I love that color. And what I do is I don't add white. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, lighten it, put white in it," but no. You sometimes going to just add orange in it, another powerful color. And I have some of that still on the brush, and I think I'm going to incorporate some of that on this side of that too. Just create this nice little warm ground here. And I'm blending this some into the darker tones with this nice sable brush here. Okay, so that's covering really nice. Okay, so now that I have that kind of established, and I kind of have a little bit of flesh tones going here. Just a little bit, just an indication. I just want to get this on the canvas so that I can start modeling. This is not my final by any stretch of the imagination. This is just some tones that I'm putting down. So that when this sets up and dry, say for example tomorrow, the new paint I put in has something to stick to, has something to work with, you know. This is my ground. Even though this is an oil ground that I'm using, it's still a ground. The acrylic sinks in. The weakness of this particular ground is it holds a lot. You almost have to use sable brushes a lot because it holds a lot of brush marks. And when you don't have nothing but white down, doesn't necessarily complement doesn't actually complement your brush strokes, because you're revealing underneath not a color, but you're revealing white, because all you have is white down. So I should have done that yesterday, but I was tired. So anyway, but I don't know if I'm gonna do too much more on her right now. I'm gonna just add just a little bit of cadmium yellow to this, just to warm this up. Not that I have to, but I'm just going to. It's because I feel like it. And a lot of times, then a cadmium yellow medium. We're just going to have a little bit of medium with this, because again, even though I'm putting this on for the first time, I can still glaze it to some level, wet into wet. And my studio is fairly warm. I mean, it's 76 degrees in here about. So, and my medium is still 30% Galkit, 30%, 20% linseed oil, which is going to slow down the dry time a smidge. But it must, because my studio is so warm. Else, this stuff would almost be drying within like 2 hours. And when I say dry, it's still drying even now. I mean, it dries as I'm painting, but this is called open, when I can still kind of see how I'm blending in this darker tone. That means the paint is still open. That means if I put another tone in, what I can do is just knock that tone in then I could come in and just blend one tone into the next. That's called the paint is open. Okay, now what happens is the paint would stay open on oil paint for about 4 to 6 hours. However, that's if you're using linseed oil, where it actually blends smoothly and nicely. Now, what happens when it starts blending and it gets blotchy? Well, that's when you're at the 4th or the 5th hour. I mean, it's still wet. It still can come up, but it starts to get really, really blotchy. So, and you have to watch out for that. So, the real business time that it's open and blending, that real time is going to be, you know, 0 to 4 hours. And if I want to slow that down, I would just paint with just linseed oil only and 0. I'm going to incorporate this sable brush too, simply because it's clean and it's small enough for me to paint this detail without spreading too much. And it's not a lot of detail. I just want to get a small blend effect here. Okay, now that's a lot darker, but I can keep throwing color in there. And I'm wet on wet. This is just going to get muddy. And like I say, really the real purpose is not to really paint it super accurate at this point. The real purpose at this point is to just be my undertone. Just to be my undertone. I just want undertone at this moment. But I do want to put it on thick, so that's why I'm kind of putting it in subsequent steps, so the undertone is in there nice and thicker. Let me just knock off this little line here. Okay, so, and that's what working with oil is different from acrylic. Acrylic will just go right in, stick, and dry. That's what it would do. Oil is a little bit different. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to start tackling with a darker tone some of this waterfall in here and separate my waterfall from the foliage. So to do that, I'm going to go into cobalt blue, and I'm going to kind of hit the middle tones in here with this watercolor. And it's coming off of, I already got a little dark line painted in from yesterday. And it's kind of like, I'm going to follow that. And I'm mixing this with a little bit of titanium white. And I like to start off with just like a middle of the road tone when I don't have anything, because it's a block color. I don't want to be too far in one direction or the next. Because then you kind of get locked in to something that you don't necessarily want to be locked into. In terms of, you know, you have to see the tones. You want to see where the tones are. So what I'm doing is just trying to establish where all of these colors in this area go on my painting. And this is kind of like starting the waterfall off. And now what I'm going to do is pick up some some cobalt blue, mix it in with that color a little bit just to get it a little darker. And I'm going to start picking up the tones, and I always like try to use a shape as a reference. For example, that piece of fruit right there is a shape. I'm going to pick up some viridian green also. And see, and that's another thing with this ground, see? Normally, if I was working with an acrylic ground, that would just suck right in. And I can get little subtleties in my color, but this is sitting on the top. It's mixing with the paint, but it's still, some of these colors are translucent. And so if it doesn't suck in and I can throw it on some more and suck in and throw in some more, I can't build I can't build the tone as quickly as I would like to. It's a little bit more frustrating. And it's only like that because I just haven't painted on an oil ground in a very long time. Okay, so, and in these establishing, I'm taking my time because I'm establishing a lot of tones here. I'm establishing a whole lot of, and it's not a lot of geometry in this because this is my background, so this is organic geometry. So, it's not like in my Haru one I had a lot of geometry. Even in this one over here, I had some geometry. In this one here, I don't have much geometry. I just have, everything is kind of got an organicness to it. But I'm establishing where there's intense tones. I like to paint intense color, middle colors first sometimes. So I'm kind of bouncing around, looking where I have some intense colors at. And like I said, I'm kind of like attracted to colors. I love color. And so if I see color, I'm gonna want to paint it because it's like a feast, you know. It's like, you know, it's like you're sitting down to your favorite dessert, you know, or your favorite meal, you know. It's like, okay, I can't wait. This is my, hurry it up, you know. And this is what my ground is. You can see my horizon going across. So I definitely want to establish this correctly. Then over this side is where some foliage starts to appear again. So, and I'm not necessarily trying to paint all of this because I do have some lines that I took the time to put in. So I'm not trying to paint this necessarily opaquely because with this foliage it kind of helps me to know how the trees go because the trees are very organic. The oil is sitting in there nice. So I don't have to worry about this thing getting like matty or chalky on me. But it still gets kind of chalky, it still sinks in, it still is going to oxidize and evaporate. So I only have 50% oil in my medium. Okay, now I'm going to go with some more Doxodine purple. And I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow ochre in there just to lighten it up. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of cadmium yellow in there. Now let me go back with a little bit of burnt umber. And then some alizarin. Yeah, and get it kind of like this. A little bit more alizarin. Because it's black, but then there's a tone of like of a reddy kind of tone here in this branch. I really want to be in an actual corner. So it probably, I don't know if on a camera it looks like all black, but that's going on really lush. I mean, I got a lot of oil in this. I got some dark colors, but wow, that's on there, man. The initial paint. Now, I mean, if you like, I haven't painted like this, so I can see some painters that recommend having an oil ground. I can see how they're liking this. I have not painted like this. And quite, well, I don't know, I just don't paint like this. I can't get used to it though. Okay, now I think I'm going to start with some of the darks into the snake's body now, which is very similar to the tree because the snake does operate by camouflage quite a bit. And a lot of times their body do kind of wrap and undulate and overlap itself. I'm going to get some more Dioxazine purple in this dark now. And I'm going to just do this part that kind of, it drops down right here right now. I'm just going to try to start getting some indicators in here. I think I have some Dioxazine purple on here. Just going to hit it with just a little bit of white. Start modeling it out. Start just getting a basic, you know, again, I'm still tacking the white. I do consider the snake part of the background because the painting is about her. Painting is about her face, really. Everything else is just really describing her. I mean, even though she kind of came up with this idea, I mean, this is really, I loved it. I instantly loved the idea, actually. But this is really her idea. So I'm gonna pick up some more white with this Dioxazine purple and alizarin. Trying to lock down my corners. So I got all four corners. Paint on them. This is good. So now lock these bad boys all the way down. And this is about blocking it in. This is about just dealing with some paint as many places as I can. The only place I'm gonna leave today, because I think I'm gonna work on the face tomorrow. I'm gonna leave the face undealt with, and the hands. That's tomorrow. But I'm gonna deal with all this background today, and then I'm gonna deal with the face tomorrow, and then I'm gonna bring everything sharper from there. And that's kind of like my approach on this bad boy. Okay, now I want another pointy brush, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to use my filbert. I'm not trying to be lazy, but I don't want to do too much. Just need to go between these colors with a brighter. I might need some more white. Because I got zinc white, but I need some titanium because the titanium is running out. There we go. What I'm doing is I'm just establishing these darks. I might even have these so I can paint wet on to dry tomorrow. I might just go wet on wet. I'm starting to add some of the texture already to the snake design here. I'm just using this number 2 filbert Reuben for this. And basically it's the color is a mix of ultramarine blue, Dioxazine purple, and Mars black to start establishing Mr. Snake here. The guy that started all the problems on Earth. Because before that there was no problems. And then the snake somehow started it all, didn't it? Just going in with the darks now. And finally working with something more organic, because I've been working, well, not organic, something that's an actual being, alive. You know, I haven't really painted her too much. I started kind of with her hair, sort of. You know, just really started to just start some, get a tone there so I can put impasto on there later. Really just establishing the design of the snake now in the painting. You know, how it's going to go in here. Going to kind of use this dark tone also, not just establish the snake, but kind of emphasize some of these branches a little bit better too. Just, I got my dark in there, my dark line. Now I'm going to just add some dark tone to help that out even better. This is some intense imagery because this comes from our Christian mythology, and you know, people are literally in fear of these type of images. It really, this type of imagery entices a lot of anxiety in people, especially Christians, Abrahamic type people. So I guess that's what this is all about. Okay, and again, you can see this last little bit of white through here. Doesn't have paint on it, and the whole idea is to get paint on everything except the foreground. And then I'm gonna get paint on that tomorrow. I might even get some paint on it today, but I don't like to paint important things I don't like to get important things when I start to get tired in my day. I like to be fresh. I'm doing a lot of this with a number 2 Reuben brush. One of my favorite brushes. You just have a lot of, I just like the control I have with this brush. This is the brush I usually go to when I'm trying to do some serious rendering. Well, when I'm rendering, I should say everything I do is serious when it comes to the painting. But when I'm rendering, this is my go-to brush. This is my Raphael. That's that Reuben brush or that's that Raphael brush? This is my Raphael brush. A lot of times people who make brushes, they kind of pick a Renaissance person to make their brand behind, thinking that, okay, almost all artists have heard of these guys, So this has to be a good brush because it's named after somebody who was a very good, famous painter. But this brush is made in Italy. It's a very, very nice brush. And when it comes to certain regions of the world in terms of making art products, they tend to, in that region, you know, Italy, France, Barcelona, Spain, they make some very quality stuff. They take it really serious. They take art really serious in those countries. First, as I paint the positive space of the snake, I can also reinforce my negative spaces. Because one element kind of teaches you sort of how to paint the other element. And I can't wait for these coats to set up and dry. So when the real painting starts. You would say, oh, aren't you painting for real now? Well, I'm blocking. I don't really consider my blocking coat, well, I am painting, so. This is kind of like sketching and laying out, you know, but I'm using a paintbrush to do it. But I have an extra element of color. I have an extra element of color and tone, extra elements of color and tone that I get to work with, as opposed to just a pencil. Just want to get all of this background dealt with. Want to deal with it all. And I am creating a little bit of impasto with some of this. First of all, my ground is so thick. And my ground is thick, 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 thick. Because I'm not going to say I struggle with the thing, you know, the directions say put 5% gam salt. You know what? I don't know how long my gam salt was sitting on a shelf at the art store before it was shipped to me, but that was some thick gam salt. And maybe if it, I'm pretty sure it's set for maybe years. But if it sits that long, it might be slowly setting up if it's been there for like 5 years or something. That tells me not a lot of people is doing oil grounds, especially Gamblin oil grounds.